BoboVR launched 3 new products this month. We talked about the grips, we talked about the facial interface, and now we have some kind of new dock that they've also put out at the same time. Let's check it out. Remember when we used to unbox things and not silver wrapping bag them, whatever you want to call this?
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Ooh, that one went better. I think I'm finally figuring out the trick. 3 in. Yeah, so easy. So now we've got the CD3 Controller Dock 3 Controller Charging Combo CD3. Their acronyms get a little bit wild, you know that, but let's see what we got. So this is their newest charging dock specifically for the grips. I always forget there's a bit more tape just right there. So this comes with book, cord, 1 grip, 2 grip, backup, hand straps for the grips, teeny tiny little batteries, not really. Oh, and they're black again. The BoboVR ones have been the only ones that come in black. D3 CB batteries, 800 milliamp hours, still much smaller than your standard AA's, which can be like 3,000. Pretty big actually for rechargeable controller ones. So these do replace the actual battery doors on the controllers with what by the box I thought would look different than this. See, these look very, very standard battery doors. They look like they're all just plastic. But the box showed that the little dots made me think it was gonna have the dots like the old one did, and then the dock itself. Left and right, oh, it's got one of the little fans on it. Maybe the same fan as the S3 Pro here. Maybe they're using all kinds of fans to cool stuff. Because they're supposed to be able to charge quickly. It's probably why they need a fan to make them not overheat when they're charging. Slightly perplexed how these are going to attach. Huh. Well, you look at this and it looks like these are magnets, but these might be what's wirelessly transmitting the power over to these. The batteries themselves also have notches though. So I guess now they've consolidated all of the magnetics to the actual batteries, meaning maybe the battery door is a bit of a moot point. Interesting. Okay, full quick install. Should be pretty straightforward. They've got the batteries marked left and right. You get your old battery door, your old battery off. Voila, pretty simple, quick install. Just like a normal battery, drops right in there. So the reason they did provide battery doors, it looks like their battery is just a little too big. So the stock battery doors don't quite go in. Boy, they're close though. You could force it in if you tried, but you're gonna end up with this part of your battery door sticking out. So do use the Bobo included doors. They have room for that. Technically, we're gonna have the grips on there, but I wanted to just play with it real quick and see it this way. Orange light means it is charging. If you have a white light, that means it's charged. If there's no light, then you have it on wrong somehow, although I feel like the magnets are gonna make that hard to do, but we'll see once we get the grip on. Grips are pretty easy to install. Once you got the battery door done, literally it slips in, you pull it up over the edge. Can't really mess it up, hopefully. Maybe if you were to leave it not quite pulled all the way on, but pretty straightforward. Boy, if they made this that foolproof, like I'm just like throwing it on there and it seems to be responding that it's working. Maybe they have some kind of a long-range wireless charger on here because man, even when I move it around, it's still charging. That's impressive. All right, you saw me install one, let's speed run this. Second one, battery door's already off, battery's in. Bobo provided battery door is on. Whole thing slips into the grip, pull these little bits around, already installed. Oh, I might have not gotten that one finally, I messed it up. You can be pretty careless with it, but you can't be completely careless with it, I will say. You put it on there, take a look and make sure your lights come on. Afterwards, you might just have to push it down a little bit in place. So they do have pretty decently strong magnets in there helping guide them, but without those nubbins sticking through like we're used to from the old grips, they're not gonna be perfect. It's still fighting through silicone now with the magnets. It makes a tiny bit of noise. It's very hard to tell, but just we're in a very quiet zone, so sometimes I pick up on these things when you probably never would at home. And it's not the sound of the fan running. It's not like a, it almost sounds like data being transmitted, if that makes sense. There's like a toot, 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 toot sound happening inside. Interesting. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, we gotta take these away, see how they charge, see how the batteries last, see how these grips feel. We talked about them a lot in the grips video, but so far the grips are really grippy. I'm liking how they feel in hand. See how they test out after a while we've been using them. It finds its way on there pretty well, but it doesn't feel like the most secure. Like it doesn't feel like you're locking something into a dock here. It feels like you're kind of tossing it on there and then it magically somehow most of the time is charging them. So it's more of like a set down and leave rather than like a snap in like a lot of docks you're used to. Yeah, we'll play around with that a lot also when we use it and see. For some reason, I feel like the right one is always landing where I want it to, and the left one I'm having to move around more. Yeah. We'll report back soon. We're gonna test this thing out. We got a couple weeks before this launches to the public anyway, so we got time, but we will be back. We're back. We already talked to you about the grips alone, but now we've been playing with the grips with their new dock, dug out their old dock to talk to you about the differences there and what we think so far. If you saw the last video, you already know I'm liking these grips. If you already have grips, so I mean, there's a lot of sets of grips out there that are pretty good. These aren't necessarily something I say go replace the grips you have with now, but I do enjoy them. I really like how grippy they are, and honestly, they're gonna become my main grips that I'm using at the moment. We had to confirm this was all interchangeable, as they said. The new grips do work on the old dock, but if you remember the dock, one thing that we didn't love is that the light, the indicator, is always kind of hidden by the strap. I just wish they put the indicator lights like out here, because then I'd drop my controllers, I'd wait and see if the lights came on. Again, I'm having to watch for it. So you can see that one is working on there, but then their old grip right here also still hooks on and runs with the new dock. So if you already have their grips, they will work with this dock. If you have the old dock, the new grips, you want to swap them out, they will work. Yes, they are all interchangeable as promised. They do charge up the controllers, about 30 hours of game time with them. You're gonna have a hard time, honestly, ever running these dead. 800 milliamp hour batteries they put in there are definitely enough that it's hard to run them out on accident, unless basically you charge them up once and then you just never put them back on the dock. You'll eventually run them out. But it brings up an interesting point that I do want to bring up for any of these kinds of charging docks. The batteries last so long in these controllers, especially if you're just using normal AA's, because I mean, those are like 3,000 milliamp hours. I think when I first got the Quest 3, it was like 2 months before I had to replace the batteries in the controllers. Do you need a dock? No, you really don't. If you like a dock for a pretty place to keep your controllers, keep it all charged up and ready to go at all times, that is nice. I personally love docks, mostly because I have multiple Quests, and so having to think about, does that one have full batteries? Does that one have full batteries? Does that one? That's annoying. But if they're all just on their own dock, I know everything's ready to go. Friends come over on a Friday, we each grab a headset, we jump into Demio together. I don't have to worry about anyone's batteries running dead. The question is, if you had the old dock, would there be any reason to go get this? No, not at all. But if you were someone who got the BoboVR Headstrap, you got a couple spare batteries, you got that single battery dock for it, and you want some grips, you want a dock for those grips, that's when it's kind of nice to have this combo right here of this. Then you have your batteries here. Your Quest could just sit here on the side with those batteries all charging. You'd have that always ready. You'd have your grips always ready. Your headset could always have one of the batteries on the back full, charging it up. And in that case, you're all set to go. So that's kind of the main use that I think this would make sense for. It is nice. It is a decent price for what you're getting. You're getting the grips, the batteries, the dock all together. So if it's something you've been thinking about for a while, it's definitely a totally fine candidate. It's not a necessity. One other change they made, obviously this is a whole different type of dock, but they used to always send these super sticky pads that are like so sticky that once you put this thing down, it felt like it wasn't going anywhere unless you like ripped it off. And now they just have rubber grips on the bottom. If there's weight on it, most likely it's not gonna move around, but it definitely is if you just push the edges. It is a lot easier to move around. The fact that you're just putting these straight on top means you're probably not gonna have a problem with that sliding around, but it's just something to know if you've gotten used to that security of these sticky pads, it's not something they decided to include this time. So overall, a fine candidate. It does a good job. It does have more battery than most of the rechargeable controller grips, which I like about that, so I am gonna be using these. This will become one more of my setups where I have all my Quests set up so that they're ready for game night, but it's not a necessity. It's not something you've gotta go buy. We already covered the facial interface. I really did like that. If you wanna check out that video or the video on just the grips, we'll leave them all up here at the end. But what do you think out there? Are you excited about this new accessories lineup? Do you already have your full setup and you don't need any? Let me know in the comments down below, but thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you in another reality.